sometimes we might feel afraid or overwhelmed of tackling a big project like a big army that we know it'll take hours. We might feel like we're not good enough, fast enough, and we won't be able to finish all of them at the decent standard. Well, I'm gonna try to prove to you that you can paint a very big army in a reasonable time frame and still ending up with the good looking result you can be proud of. And okay, that's all good, but I have to admit the stakes for me to finish on time are personal, because this army is a gift from my friend Daniel, who's coming here to visit. And I don't know, I kind of found myself with 3 days left before he arrived, but it's gonna be okay, right? Right? I don't feel like fuck this shit. Let's go to eat something. This video is sponsored by Skillshare. Okay, most of the 24 hours challenge I saw here on YouTube included building and prepping, and some didn't. I can clearly state I don't hate myself that much anymore to build and prep all the models in 24 hours. So bugger that, I'm just gonna paint. Not a week, not a weekend, not 24 hours. The goal is to finish in around 10 hours all the 47, I think, TYRANIDs present in the Leviathan box set. To achieve it, I'm gonna make some strategic choices or some corners cutting, because that's my thing. And also some mistakes that you will need to avoid. Can you guess if I managed to pull this off? And if so, in how many hours? Guess in the comments. Okay, here was 10 a.m. Monday morning. I had to clean the desk up because it was so messy and it took me half an hour. Now it's really time to start. I started with the Ripper Swarms because I wanted something small to test my color scheme on. Better safe than sorry, right? So I quickly figured out that I was indeed using the wrong kind of contrast paint. I wrote down the wrong name, of course. You know, the difference is barely visible, so I'm just gonna move on to the Termagants. I started on the Termagants, which were the models I knew better because of all the test model I painted, so I can paint without activating any brain cell. I just applied the right contrast paint, which is Eldari Emerald, to the skin, diluted in the ratio you can see now on screen. In retrospect, maybe I should have left that lighter work for the deep hours of the night. Also because from all the models in the box set, I only tested on this, so I was just sure on what to do on Termagants. I'm always making the smart choices. I'm making mistakes so you don't have to. When you tackle a project like this, it's super important you have a clear idea of the steps you need to take. You really need to keep the guesswork out of the process because it's gonna mess with your head. And of course I didn't follow my own advice. More of that later. Then I mixed the same green of the base coat with some black Templar contrast paint in the ratio you see on screen. By the end of the morning I had 10 Termagants done. I still have to prime the test models that I stripped, but I'm gonna get some lunch first. I started painting at 10:30, and now it's pretty much 12:30, so about 1 hour and 50 minutes. See you in a bit. Okay, 2 p.m. and I'm gonna start finishing up those 10 guys and then getting started with the Neurogons. In the meanwhile, let me tell you 2 things about this challenge. Number 1 is I wanted this challenge to be an amount of hours that anyone can pull off. In a weekend or even in a day. I want this challenge to be doable. I wanted to take breaks, go for walks for my bloody mental health. I wanted to paint a reachable amount of hours. Also, I have an incredible pain in my back and neck. If I paint for too long, that spikes up. I want this to inspire you, not to make you feel like you're not able to do this. The only crazy part of my challenge is that I'm gonna get the most consecutive hours of work done during the night. That's because I'm a night person, and also because I just had Monday off, so I was kind of forced to do the majority of the work that day. Number 2 is having a tested color scheme. I can't stress enough how important this is, especially if you want to paint fast. Being sure of what steps you'll need to take and what paints you'll need to use or whatever is gonna be pivotal. In fact, I'm using 4 paints for this whole army. 3 contrast paint and 1 medium. So technically 3 colors. That's it, that's simple. But how the hell do you figure out the color scheme without wasting precious models to test it on? Oh, I'm glad you asked, because there actually are many tools that can help you with that. These tools can really be pivotal in making you understand many things about painting, but also they can be really overwhelming, especially if you're like me. But here's where this video sponsor comes in. Skillshare. If you have been living under a rock and you don't know what Skillshare is an online learning community that can help you discover other sides of your creativity. But also here you'll learn about the tools I mentioned before that will actually help out with your miniature painting. For me, the most important thing that I learned on Skillshare was Photoshop. Photoshop can really be overwhelming, and it was for me until I went on Skillshare, actually before they reached out for a sponsorship. So I'm not even done with this class here, and I already know most of the things I need to know to use Photoshop for miniatures. For example, testing and studying color schemes, edit your own pics, which is very important, catching highlights and shades and more. I highly suggest you learn that. If you want to try it for yourself, which highly suggest to, while also supporting the channel, you can go in the description. The first 500 people to use my link will get 1 month free trial on Skillshare. So visit the link in the description if you want me to learn new stuff. I skipped the narrow guns and started working on the bigger models instead. Why? Well, because it doesn't seem all that smart to start airbrushing late at night. And here's the first big problem. I had no plan with this whatsoever. I started spraying the skin with Eldari Emerald, which is the color I used for the skin of the other models, but I quickly realized that wasn't gonna work as I expected, and this ended up not just being a big waste of my time, but also being a challenging element, especially for the leapers, which I hated painting, and part of the cause was the airbrush thing. Oh well.
We gotta admit here, things are getting a little bit messy. I have some colors splashed around. Not really convinced about what I'm doing. Oh fuck.
And while you are in the description grabbing your free Skillshare trial, you also might want to subscribe to my mailing list because I have some interesting stuff coming and you really want to be up to date for it. Anyhow, after freaking out a bit, I decided I was gonna just paint the skin of the big models in the same way I painted the little ones, which I should have done from the beginning, you know? So with the airbrush, I went back in with an off-white similar to the primer color, and I started recreating some volumes. So basically the skin is pretty much the same as the Termagons and the carapace as well. And I was kind of happy how I ended up looking the big models with the contrast light to dark. I really liked that. So by the end of the session, I had 20 Termagons and the 2 other little things, and all the bigger models pretty much taken care of. 80% of that, at least. Right now, it doesn't look like much because I have so many models left. This is all super doable. Okay, it's 11 p.m. I'm ready to finish this TYRANIDs. I have my Coke ready. This Coke. I was feeling pretty optimistic this afternoon. Now I am kind of tired. I think I have to do at least other 5 hours. Let's do it. So I started with the barb guns, painting the skin in the same usual boring manner, as well as the carapace, always mixing Eldari Emerald with Black Templar contrast paint. So guess what? It's not even midnight and my battery already died. I don't know how that happened. I charged it all day. In the meanwhile, I'm gonna take care of some details here. The color scheme is pretty much the same. It's gonna be yellow here in the center. Here's a time lapse of that. Enjoy. I also wanted to add more interest to the carapace of the Barbagons by adding more Black Templar to the base tone and blending it together. Okay, I'm almost done with this guy. Let's bring in the big guns. I don't want to go to sleep at 4 in the morning. I found that it's pretty easy to use contrast paints to blend pretty fast. The only problem I have with that technique is that you really need to get your brush clean fast. And my response to that was to put it in my mouth, which is not really a good idea because this is not safe. I do not recommend it. I bet you can find another way to do this more appropriately. You could put your cleaning pot closer to the miniature. You could put a paper towel nearby, blah, blah, blah. I bet there are plenty of solutions that don't include ingesting semi-non-toxic substances. Okay, game plan here. We got this almost done. These two are to be finished. This is almost finished. Now I'm gonna take care of this. This just needs some few retouches.
They're gonna come up like this. Pretty cool. And I've got these.
So first I need to paint a test model for the leapers because I felt I already screwed up by using the airbrush. Then I took care of the guns of the barbagans, a wet blending magenta with yellow that created this orange middle tone that was pretty cool. Remember, I already tested this so I knew the direction I was going towards. By mixing colors together, you don't even need to worry about if the color works or not, because most of the time if you get it by mixing, it'll work. I then took care of the other two leapers. Same old boring process. These were the worst, probably the models I was least happy with. Oh, it's almost 2 p.m. I'm not nearly close to done. Okay. Anywho, I'm gonna try to push a little bit more. My head is hurting, but I do want to get all the paint in. I might leave some details to finish, like the basing, because I'm not fucking crazy. Maybe some minor details. I want to get like 80% of the color, and I'm gonna do it. At this point, I started the TYRANID Prime, painting the skin in the same way of all the others, and also the wings membrane. I then again went back to the leapers and managed to give them a little bit more interest by adding yellow to the claws that produce a kind of an acid green. I started the skin of the neurogons, and here I clearly started to be a little bit delulu because I moved a lot between models, probably trying to not rip my own hair off my head and die. I keep eating a must be harmful quantity of paint, but I'm gonna have a smoke. I was supposed to be in bed right now, but I'm not. Let's go smoking. Let's go smoking. And back to it. Back to the neurogons, which at this point were the last model left. I painted the carapace with the usual mix of Eldari Emerald and Black Templar, but also added some magenta on the top, which produced this nice violet mixed with the other colors. I don't feel very good. I have maybe half an hour left to finish what I plan to finish. And it's really getting harder to lay down for a second because I couldn't focus my eyes any longer. Oh, really? Man, I really love you for doing this shit for you. Let's get up! Here was really hard to push through. It required a lot of precision and I had no more focus left really. But I managed to do it because the more sloppy I am now, the worse it's gonna be tomorrow. I'm weirdly done with all the things that I was planning to do. 90% of the army is done. I'm just missing the bases and few details. I am tired. I had a moment where I was on the ground. I was about to quit, really. But I made it. I made it. 5 hours straight. I don't think that anyone should ever do that, ever. That's all the work I managed to get done today. I think I'm pretty happy with this. Let's see how I will feel tomorrow. Fuck this shit. Let's go to eat something. The morning after, I wasn't feeling very confident about this whole thing. I was tired, my schedule was pretty busy, and the amount of details I had left to paint felt infinite. At the beginning, I believed I could just give myself other 3 hours total to finish up all the details and the basing and yada yada yada, because at the end of the day, it was around 10 hours, right? I didn't want to reach 16 hours painting, and I wanted to take way less than that. 3 hours. I'm not cheating, right? Yeah, 3 hours. Sure. Okay, at this point, guys, I had to cut it short because this video is way too long already, and the rest of the painting was both boring and painful. And to be honest, a little bit out of plan as well. All in all, it wasn't so bad. The only thing about this approach that drove me crazy was the white primer showing through in some parts, and I wanted that gone because I wanted this to be to standard for my friend. The real amount of hours it took me wasn't so far off, but still not exactly what I wanted. 13 hours planned, 14 hours, and 35 minutes done. 1.5 hours off. But you know what? I don't care, because the real challenge was to finish this army before my friend arrived. And that's the real payoff for me. And there it is, in all its glory. Man, this TYRANIDs look really sick. I almost wish I could keep... Nah. Let's go pick him up from the airport, shall we? Hey kid, don't ever let them get inside your head. What gate is flight 1511 leaving from? It's an emergency! Press B?
Go ahead, and then you fall out the window. Oh, you're fucking kidding me.
That's your present.
You're fucking kidding me.
I painted this in 3 days. Mostly 10 hours in 1 day. Daniel was a random guy from the internet who asked me for a commission, and now we're mates. This goes to show how this hobby brings people together, creates friendships and bonds and more. That's really amazing, and that's why I'm so glad to be a part of this community. It's only thanks to Daniel that I can go to Adepticon, possibly meeting some of you, enter into Golden Demon to see how much I suck this year. And that's also the reason I wanted to thank him and giving him a army. But also, you don't really need a reason to give people you love gifts. You just do it. If you enjoyed watching me painting a huge amount of miniatures, you will definitely need to watch this video here, where I paint another big amount of miniatures. See you there.